Hi, welcome back to God Laughs at Dirty Jokes book readings. I believe this is number 19. We're going to start with chapter 38 today, which is called Ghost Tour. And we are now on page 200 out of 262. So it is definitely the home stretch, which is exciting and sad. Thanks for your comments and emails about my dreams video from last week. That was fun. I really appreciate it. It's nice to have that dialogue and exchange. I really appreciate anybody taking the time to watch these and to comment and to enjoy a little back and forth with me. It's really nice. A few things off the top. I have started doing that daily prayer thing that the Pope asked for. The Pope asked for everybody to pray through the month of May for the world to overcome COVID. So I started about a week ago, and I just do it whenever I think of it during the day. Sometimes I feel like it helps, and sometimes I don't know if it helps, but I think it's a good thing to do either way. It's just like a practice. So let's, if anybody else, I know some of you said you wanted to do it too. That'd be great. Let me know if you notice anything when you start to do it. And then the other thing, just real quickly, there were I had lots of other dreams in the past week, but nothing like as strange and notable as the one from last week. But last night I had a recurring dream where I was back in my very first apartment in the suburbs of Buffalo, and the apartment just seemed so small. It wasn't a super small apartment, but in the dream it seemed very small. And there's this recurring element that just makes me laugh because I don't know what it means. The shower is always broken. Every time I return to this apartment, there's usually other people living in it, as there were this time, but they happen to be friends of mine. And the shower's broken and in a state of partial repair. And like the first question is, when's the landlord going to take care of this? And the landlord is either absent or unresponsive. However, in this version of the dream, the new tenants had built another shower into one of the bedrooms. So that was their solution. They had created a walk-in shower somewhere else in the apartment. So it was solved. And then the other perhaps notable and slightly odd aspect of the dream was that it was in winter. It's not particularly warm here in Buffalo this weekend. It's around 50 degrees, but this was straight up winter with a driveway full of snow, and I pulled my truck up and drove through snow to get to the house. So that's really the most of what I remember. Okay, let's jump in. I'm going to try not to make these too long, you know. Sometimes I drift, as you know. So 38 is called Ghost Tour. Somehow, I nearly forgot to mention that there are ghost tours on my street every summer in the Allentown district of Buffalo. I'm going to have to look up the guy who gives them because he regularly discusses these houses on my block, all within 50 feet of my home. I was working on the final edits for the book on my laptop when he came by with a tour group of 20 young Asian tourists or students. I eavesdropped with ease. He wore a little headset microphone that amplified his voice up to my second floor porch. Here's a summary of what I learned. House number 1 is a few doors down from me across the street. The tour guide said there was an unfriendly presence in the second floor apartment. An unnamed woman who previously lived there felt oppressed in the flat. Her dog often barked at seemingly empty space. Animals are perceptive in ways we possibly can't even imagine, like Oscar, the therapy cat at the Steer House nursing complex in Providence, Rhode Island. I read about him online in 2010. Oscar paces the halls, only stopping to visit patients who have hours to live. The cat has predicted at least 50 deaths and is so reliable that doctors will notify family members when the cat jumps on the bed to comfort an occupant. Amazing. Jumping back to the woman in house number 1 on my street who used to live in the flat. The night that she moved out, her electrical clock kept spinning in rapid circles. The tour guide didn't say whether this presence is still felt by the current tenants. They must have been thrilled if they overheard him, because these are summer tours. so most of the block can hear the guy on his headset. House number 2 is a few doors down from me on the same side of the street. The tour guide said it used to be a bra factory in the early 1900s, and when it caught fire, many young girls burned to death because they were chained to their desks to sew the bras. Never underestimate man's capacity for inhumanity towards his fellow man. The rebuilt house became a bike club. Now it's a residence. It looked like the tour guide was pointing at the home my uncle and aunt, my dad's sister, used to own, but I couldn't see clearly enough through the trees to be certain. As a child, a typo in the book. It says as I child. Haha. As a child, I played games in the vaulted attic with my cousins. I never experienced anything odd there. I should ask my cousins if they did. House number 3 was nearest to mine. He said 3 old women lived in it. One used a cane which made a familiar tapping sound that residents in the other apartment often heard. When she died, the new residents still heard her cane, and they found a secret compartment in her bedroom. It housed a small box of odd items, including tree slices dressed as people with pin cushions sticking out of them. I forgot about that. Apparently, the old ladies were into the juju, the tour guide said laughingly. Yikes. I listened and briefly considered yelling, "Hey, if you think that's good, I've got spirits over here all the time, and I'm writing a book about it that will blow your mind." But that would have probably been rude, so I didn't do it. It's tempting, though. The tour guide also discussed a rectangular plot of cement about twice the size of a coffin in the middle of the street, fairly equidistant among the 3 houses. It keeps sinking into the ground as if something bad is associated with the spot, though the story was short on details. Was it a makeshift grave? I doubt it. He said when city workers used normal paving materials on the street, this plot always sank within a short period of time, forcing frequent patching. Eventually, the workers took to using heavier grade sidewalk cement instead so that it lasts longer. I was intrigued when the tour guide said he thinks there are centers of spiritual energy that seem to be related to geography. As I said, the 3 houses on the tours are all within 50 feet of my own house, which he described as a typical focal radius. And sadly, there was a murder in another cute cottage house across the street when my grandparents still owned it and inhabited my house. The tour guide didn't mention this, and I've heard nothing about any bad spirit presences there. A terrible event in a space doesn't necessarily condemn it to haunting. This part is in parentheses. The part of me that resists associations, self-aggrandizing, or seeing mystical connections in every minor detail, in every minor daily event, hesitates to mention the tour at all, yet it seems relevant. It's easy to overestimate one's connectivity or the importance of one's role in the bigger plan. Close parentheses. After both of my grandparents died, my father and his sisters inherited their house. A real estate agent told Dad that he wouldn't get more than $30,000 for it. He found this unacceptable. As he'd recently retired, he decided to rehab it with a few hired hands. He rented the 2 apartments out until I purchased it several years later, and he helped with additional renovations, as did Mom. After more than a decade, now a decade and a half, of facelifts and the opening of numerous new businesses down the block, the value of houses in my neighborhood has increased tenfold. It's crazy, and it just goes to show you how perception of value is sometimes more powerful than actual value, whatever that even means anymore. Now that money is like we print it like toilet paper now. That's a terrible thing to say. It's not exactly what I mean. I mean, it's important, but yeah, those printing presses are running all the time now. So does money really mean anything? I mean, it does, of course. If you're fortunate enough to have a home, then you know that it does, or other things. Okay. I either just ruined the tour guide's business by telling you everything I overheard, or helped with his future bookings. I don't know how I'd feel about my house being lumped in as a tour stop with the others, especially if I'm on the porch at the time. This house isn't haunted. There are no questionable presences of any kind. The truth is that spirits are everywhere. They travel freely and pop in to visit where they like, though it does appear that certain spirits are very attached to places they inhabited while living, and some do haunt them when they can't let go. After purchasing the house in summer 2006, and just before I moved in, I had a bad dream in which ghosts taunted me and said they would haunt me here. It scared me a little, but I knew much less about spirits than now. I don't believe unfriendlies can physically inhabit spaces that have abundant positive energy or where no negative energy has accumulated. They can't find a nook to hide in or infect. Nevertheless, Mom got some holy water in a small brown bottle from a local church, and we spritzed the apartment for the heck of it. Couldn't hurt, right? I've never had any problems here, though I'm mostly cautious about the spirits with whom I communicate. The bottle of holy water is in the pantry, but there hasn't been a reason to use it again. I have since smudged, though, just for the heck of it. Just for the record, and in case this book somehow gets read by more than 6 people, if you are enchanted by these spirit accounts, you are absolutely not allowed to treat my block and or home as a weird Mecca destination for spiritual energy. My neighbors and I are entitled to privacy. If you are insufficiently respectful, I will break out the juju on you. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so that's chapter 38, Ghost Tour. Chapter 39 is called Glad J. Show you what I'm talking about. Gladj. Okay. Glad J. As you know, my younger brother Steve has had many friendly visits from our brother Justin, Mom's second child. Justin's the member of our little gang who perhaps volunteered to stay behind to help orchestrate this dream composition from a higher vibration, plucking cosmic strings. For no particular reason, at some point we started referring to him more often as Jay. At the midway point of writing, I realized the acronym for my book is GLAD J, as in Glad Justin. God, lots of dirty jokes. It made us smile. In our email correspondence, Steve, Mom, and I often add smiley face emoticons typed as this symbol. Where is it? Where did it go? Okay, right there. See the smiley face emoticon? In our email correspondence, Steve, Mom, and I often add smiley face emoticons typed as smiley face to the end of a note. For the last few years, when they've received an email, a capital letter J inexplicably appeared in place of each smiley face I'd typed. So, looking like just the J. Yep, where the smiley had been. I only became aware of the odd substitution when they wrote back. I'd read their note and then scroll down to reread my original messages to find J's instead of smileys. I chalked it up as a software quirk, though no other characters were consistently similarly altered. As Mom had no way of knowing that smiley faces were missing in the first place, she eventually asked why I kept including J's. I explained how I deduced the substitutions, but that I didn't know why they were occurring. Mom felt these were instances of Justin playfully reminding us of his presence and to think of him. I wondered whether to write about it in the book. Was it too much of a reach, a case of interpreting every coincidence as a cosmic sign? Then one hot weekend afternoon this summer, Mom, Steve, and I went to Forest Lawn Cemetery in Buffalo for a stroll. In just a few minutes, our team humor kicked in. We twisted the last name on various headstones into silly puns and made other dumb jokes. Like when Mom asked if I needed any ketchup after we passed a Heinz stone. Of course, it wasn't spelled the same. It was Heintz stone. Or is that the same? I don't know. I practically slapped my forehead. I smell dead people, I said, inappropriately echoing the boy from The Sixth Sense. There were more goofy comments which I can't recall. We amused ourselves. We decided it's okay if people make fun of our names after we're dead, too. We'll be gone. It won't matter. If you've never heard of it or visited, Forest Lawn is an amazing, sprawling campus. There are more than 150,000 graves on its 269 acres. I forgot it was that many. Established in 1849 in downtown Buffalo, the abundance of ornate monuments, mausoleums, statues, and sculptures makes it clear that Buffalo's wealthy historical families are well represented. We pondered who some of them might have been, especially when inspecting the large marble and stone vanity pieces, as their financiers likely hoped we would. Why else would someone require a 30-foot obelisk announcing his departure from Earth if not to signify status even in death? We couldn't envision ourselves lodged in something as flashy as a mausoleum, as beautiful as many of them are. Besides, what if purchasing a big, expensive funeral monument in advance somehow makes you die sooner because the universe knows you're even materialistic about death, the supposed great equalizer? In parentheses, it says here, note that the grave of Dorothy Getz, a singer born in Buffalo and the first wife of celebrated songwriter Irving Berlin, is quite modest. She died of typhoid in 1921, only 6 months after their wedding, at 20 years of age. Berlin wrote his first ballad, When I Lost You, for her. Supposedly, the only song he admitted came directly from personal experience. The Sinatra version is appropriately restrained and mournful. End parentheses. A black rectangular marble sculpture standing about 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide held dozens of drawers of ashes from various families. Although Mom, Steve, and I each think we'd like to be cremated, it seemed like a good time for a smartass to mention that the big problem is that 95% of the person goes up the smokestack. A lot of it is water. Mom put her hands in the air and wiggled her whole little munchkin body like a wave. She said, "Look at me, and I'll do a little dance while I'm going up." She would, too. She will. She will. Oh, my God. I said the real ceremony should probably be outside the crematorium when the person is incinerated. When the smoke hits the air is truly the last goodbye. The 5% of ashes one receives afterward seems like an inadequate remnant. There might be no better option except perhaps an open-air funeral pyre, the body wrapped lovingly in shrouds. And since then, I've come across this concept, it's real, where they've got composting pods for the deceased. I can't remember what state this is in, but I'm sure they're expensive, especially since it's a newer technology. But like basically they take your body, put you in this composting bin for however long, and eventually you become soil instead of any cremation at all. I mentioned it to Mom, but she wasn't into it. So I guess not for her. Maybe Steve and I'll give it thought in time. Okay, little coffee sip. Yes, I am still using a Christmas mug, mostly because I like the shape of it. It's nice and big, so I can fill it. Hi. Okay, back to Forest Lawn Cemetery. We stopped to cool off on a marble bench located beneath a small tree. It was less shade than we wanted, but we had to get off our feet after a few hours. I asked Mom and Steve if the smiley face emoticons turning into J's was significant enough to include in the book. We didn't come to a conclusive answer and were soon making jokes again. Afterward, Mom suggested we go for a snack at the new coffee culture shop on Elmwood Avenue near my place. On the way over, I sang Coffee Cultured to the tune of Culture Club's Karma Chameleon. Coffee, 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 coffee culture. Wow, that was bad singing. I mean, even for me. It didn't match up at all syllabically, which helped make it stupid and funny. The lyrics got progressively more inappropriate as we neared our destination. I clutched Steve's knee in the passenger seat for dramatic effect. He said he would always think of my song when passing a coffee culture. 2 days later, Culture Club announced their first reunion tour in 15 years. These truly are the moments we cherish later in life. Coffee culture. Yeah. Yep. Inside the air-conditioned coffee shop, we ordered sandwiches and coffee. Steve got a Coke. which the friendly cashier grabbed from a cooler behind the counter. When we got to a table, Steve showed us the side of the plastic bottle. It said, "Share a Coke with Justin." Justin's name was in the same font as the Coke logo, with a familiar white wave below it. We thought it was a sign from Jay that the smiley face conversions were indeed his work. I took a picture of Steve grinning with the bottle in the foreground. Mom later blew it up and framed it for his apartment. She also made one for her desk. I asked for one for my wall. Mom filled Justin's empty Coke with small stones. It sits on a shelf with other souvenirs above Steve's TV. And hold on, I have this picture and I will show you, but I have to excuse myself. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm coming. See, it's kind of fading out now because it's just a framed picture of a print of a photo. So that's my brother Steve in his sunglasses at Coffee Culture, looking almost angelic now and hazy. And then Justin's Coke. So there you have it. Okay. Right. Okay. I pulled back the only unoccupied chair at our table, still at the coffee shop, moved the open bottle in front of it, and invited Justin to have a seat and sip. Mom and Steve laughed. I mimed the soda pop going up through an invisible plastic straw. I so wished the liquid would float upward or bubble a little. Our curiosity piqued. I looked up Coke names promotion on my smartphone and found info on the British Coke website, which appeared first in the search results. It said that the promotional campaign used more than 1,000 different names. Coke encouraged people to take photographs with their bottles and upload them to their website. It's a clever, obviously effective concept, as they've received a lot of free press here. I want royalties, you high fructose sugar pimps. You help make America fat. With more than 1,000 different names in circulation, the statistical chance of Steve receiving a bottle with Justin on it is less than 0.1%. Unfortunately, the smiley faces theory popped the next day after I'd started writing the chapter. A web search uncovered several online articles about the J email substitution phenomenon. It turned out to be a common issue with a specific email program. One personal computing website explained it this way. If you've ever received an email with a mysterious J in the body of the message, you may have been perplexed by its meaning. Some messages have a single J, while others have several. Most J's appear at the end of sentences, but they can appear anywhere in a message. So what does this enigmatic character mean, and why does it show up in email messages? The J is actually supposed to be a smiley face. This is because the letter J represents a smiley face icon in the Wingdings font. Microsoft Outlook, a popular email client, automatically converts the two different versions of smiley faces, text emoticons, into smiley face icons using Wingdings. Therefore, when Microsoft Outlook users type smiley faces in an email message, as I had, they are sent as visual smiley face icons, but appear as J's to recipients who don't have the Wingdings font installed. Okay, that's complicated, but I think you get the point. Even though the mystery of the J's was solved and our fun theory debunked, I still think it's cool that smiley faces have turned into J's in thousands, millions, or perhaps billions of messages. Maybe Justin's plan all along was not just to pepper us with J's, which are equivalent to smiley faces, but the whole world. He is Glad J after all. He's just sharing the love. Why J anyway? Why not Z, Q, F, B, or K? But no, it's J. Yes, the lesson is that one may err when trying to make every seemingly synchronous square peg fit a round cosmic hole, yet we still felt Justin near when Steve showed us the Coke. And in a brief moment of seriousness during our conversation at the table, Mom said, "Justin died on Earth without sin." I felt my eyes moisten at the realization, the truth of it in my heart. He had only lived for a few hours. His innocence was preserved. We were pleasantly reminded of Jay, even if it was only by coincidence this time. Previous events have been so unmistakably clear that one instant which doesn't line up neatly doesn't shake our faith or joy. And then I wrote J Smiley, J Smiley, J Smiley. Well, actually, just the 2 times. Do you see? J Smiley, exclamation point. And that concludes chapter 39 at the 26-minute almost mark. So this is where I'm going to stop. Keep it tidy. And I hope you're doing well. Hope you're hanging in there. Let's keep this prayer thing up, right? We got to pray for the victory of mankind over COVID, and especially right now, praying for people in India and contacting our representatives to encourage them to have the United States be a leader in providing vaccines to India or other supplies, and globally as we stockpile more vaccines in time, because the variants have to be defeated as much as possible everywhere they exist, because they'll eventually migrate back here if we don't nip them elsewhere. So in this case, I would say that Spirit is almost insisting that we think and act globally, because if we don't, we will also be affected by it negatively. So yeah, so let's just end with a nice quiet prayer, if you don't mind. Let's have a nice quiet prayer for the well-being of the world, the victory of the world over COVID. A prayer for the well-being of the world. A prayer for the victory of the world over COVID and the relief of suffering and a return to a greater joy and a greater appreciation of our brief time here, and more gratitude in general. Spirit, please help the world. Okay, I'm going to sit in this quiet space energy for a little while longer. If you feel like it too, please do. Sip a little more coffee. Listen to the sounds outside. Look out the windows at the green. I see the birds at the feeder and on the porch railing. And then get going on my little house project for the day. Okay, be well. Take care. Bless you.